had an amazing break, eating some good food, getting a drink, chatting to your friends, designing rad ideas, and getting excited for this session because I'm pretty sure this is the one you're waiting for. No pressure to our next guests. However, a lot of the time when it comes to events like this for young people, the people that are sitting on the chairs are like old like me, right? And so, you know, you look at old people like me and you're like, man, I can't relate to you. You're old and stuff. You might think you're cool because you've got cool hair, but ultimately you're old. And so what we're doing today is we're going to chat to some young people that have been in the same position as you. So they were in our program last year and also the year before. They moved through the programs in their schools to go through to the grand final, and they also then won the grand finals in the last 2 years. And we're going to chat to them about their ideas, what worked, what didn't, what was good about the program, what sucked, what was hard, maybe some advice that they might have for you guys. And hopefully you'll hear it, I guess, from the horse's mouth about hot tips and tricks in order to design your own innovative solutions that make the world a better place. Now, at the end of the last session, what we finished up with was an epic conversation with obviously Lou and Leon, but we also took you from divergent thinking with lots of problems to picking a wicked problem in our first session. We also in our first session ideated lots of different products and services. In our second session with Lou and Leon, we then drilled down into maybe one product or one service that we wanted to focus on that aligned tightly with the problem that we wanted to solve. And then what we did with that is we thought about the materials, perhaps different, unique, interesting, environmentally positive materials that we could bring into that product or service in order to create a compelling point of difference, something that would be interesting or unique that people would want to know more about and maybe be part of the reason why your business makes the world a better place. So if we're still focusing on our entrepreneur's journey, this stage is like what makes us different. So we're still thinking about that compelling, unique value proposition. And of our 4 things that we discussed materials last time. We're now going to talk about access, which you'll remember I spoke before is kind of like how do your customers or your clients find you or access your product or service. And I want to show you 2 examples of businesses that do something a little bit different with the way that their customers and clients access their products. And the first one that I want to talk about is the Fifth Watches. Now, these guys started out originally with only releasing their watches on the 5th of every month. So 1 day a month was the only time you could buy their products. And then at the end of the 5th, it would shut down and you couldn't buy the product again until the 5th of the next month. They've iterated on that model. Now they release their new designs on the 5th of each month and they're available for 5 days. So they're still keeping that theme of 5 in their products. And what they're trying to do here is they're limiting the access that their potential customers have to their product to create a sense of urgency to buy the product now, because it won't always be there. If that customer doesn't pick it up on that day, they might miss out forever. So that's one way. By actually limiting the access that your customers have to your product, you can create a greater sense of urgency to double down and buy that product now, rather than just have it sit in a shopping cart or something that you think about over a series of weeks. Now, the next product and popular model, I guess, that businesses bring in to improve the accessibility of the product to the customer is the idea of a subscription service. And so this is Taboo. These guys produce sanitary tampons, like items like tampons and pads, and you can purchase them as a subscription. This model works really well for products that people need to buy regularly. So who gives a crap does it for toilet paper? You jump online, you say, look, I want to deliver every 3 months and this is how many rolls I want. And then it automatically debits the money out of your account and that product rocks up at those intervals at your door, which means you never run out, you never forget to pick it up. And in the case of toilet rolls, you're not lugging like 18 rolls of toilet paper home on the bus. So it solves a lot of accessibility issues to the product for the customer. Taboo works similarly. So it's a product that women need to buy regularly. So rather than have you choose the cheapest product on the shelf when you go to the shops, this rocks up to your door every month. So you never run out. You also always buy their product, and it's just a direct debit that comes out of your account. So it makes it really easy for customers to continue to buy your product. So one example that we looked at with the fifth is like limiting the accessibility to make it more interesting. Some of your organizations that you might look at do this by like limited editions, so there might only be a certain number of each product that are released. And the second way to, I guess, create a unique value proposition when we look at access is increasing the accessibility. So making it a subscription, particularly for items that you need to buy regularly. This might be toothpaste or cleaning products or other household items. It might be stuff that you buy twice a year. Sometimes you can get subscription services for board games and for books if you're prolific in that space. But by making a direct debit where there's money coming out of every account means that they're locking their customers into their product time and time again and building up that regularity. So we're going to throw to you right now, with the product or service that you're designing, is there a way for you to tweak the accessibility that your clients or your customers have to your product or service to make it more interesting and compelling, and to perhaps lock customers into buying your product only? We're going to give you 3 minutes, and we want you to ideate as many ways to do something different with the way that your clients and customers access your product or service to make a unique value proposition, something compelling that people are going to want to tap into more. We'll see you back in 3 minutes. Welcome back, team. Hopefully you came up with some cool, diverse, interesting, weird, wonderful, wild ways that you can tweak the accessibility, or the ways that your customers or clients get to you to buy your product or service, to create a unique value proposition, something different or unique or interesting. Maybe like a way to limit how many you have, or the accessibility, so that it creates that sense of urgency and people want to buy your product because they may miss out if they don't tap into it then. I'm super pumped to introduce you to like the 3 young people that we have here today to talk to you. These guys have been our grand final winners from the last 2 years. And we're going to chat to them a little bit about what their enterprise was or is, what it used to be, maybe the different ideas they had before their current enterprise, their experiences, the things that they like and that they don't like, and maybe some advice they have for you as you're tapping into the program. Because these guys were where you are now last year and also the year before. So I want to kick off by introducing our grand final winner from 2018. Tanika is the founder of Shielded Socks. She's also a proud student of Springfield Central State High School, which funnily enough have won our last 2 grand finals. And I don't want to put the pressure on students at Springfield Central for this year to make it a trifecta, but I feel like there is some expectation of you guys kicking it. I also want to throw the gauntlet down to the other 45 schools we have involved in the program this year. Can you topple our grand champion school from the last 2 years with your ideas this year? Competition aside, healthy competition aside, Tanika, thanks so much for coming today. Maybe for those that are unfamiliar with Shielded Socks and unfamiliar with you, like what grade are you in now? What is Shielded Socks? Like what does it do? Are you still running the enterprise? Like what's the story?
So my name's Tanika. I'm founder of Shielded Socks. I'm in grade 11. And when I started Shielded Socks, I was in grade 9, I think. Yeah, I was in grade 9. Basically, Shielded Socks is a social enterprise created to support youth with mental health issues, and 50% of the profits go to Kids Helpline. The product is a school sock, but not as you know it. It's white on top so that you can wear it to school, and then the unique design is underneath. That way kids can wear it to school without the teachers getting angry with them. Yeah,
very cool. I'm pretty sure. Yes, I have mine on. Sometimes I pull them off and I don't, and it's real embarrassing, but I'm wearing them today. They're actually really comfortable. Cool. So 2 years on, like tell me a little bit about like what you've done since you, I guess, won that grand final. Like what have you been working on in the last 2 years between the grand final win and now today?
I've been working on trying to find a manufacturer that can actually produce the design that we need for Shielded Socks, which was a bit of a struggle. Probably one of my biggest things that I love talking about is the crowdfunding campaign, where in April of 2019 I successfully fundraised $10,232.
That's a very specific number. Like you've got that down to the dollar. Well done.
Yeah, that was a very big thing. And then ever since then, just trying to tackle the actual, I don't know what you would call it, trying to tackle the...
Getting the socks.
Yeah.
What's easier, having an idea or launching a business?
Having an idea.
Yeah, so did you find it really hard to come up with the idea for Shielded Socks?
100%, yeah.
Was it something that you settled on straight away? Like you just came up with what Shielded Socks look like now is the idea that you had right from the beginning?
No.
How many times, guesstimate, like it doesn't have to be an exact number, but roughly how many times do you reckon your idea or your mind has changed in going right from the beginning of the Future Anything program to today, sitting here right now?
Probably an odd 15 times at least.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And how do you make those changes? Like what is it that happens, or is it talking to people? Like how do you know that your idea has to change? Because I know that sometimes our young people feel like their first idea is the best idea, or they're worried that if they don't have an idea now, they're never going to come up with one. Do you think that's the case?
No, not at all. I know a part of the program is to come up with at least 100 ideas, which was very useful with trying to come up with an idea for the problem. But another thing that has changed our idea is definitely people's feedback to me on what they think would and wouldn't work. Also, a major factor is what the manufacturers can and can't do with designs and stuff. So, yeah.
Sounds like you've learnt a lot over the last 2 years. I'm going to come back to you, and I want to tap into the crowdfunding campaign, how you raise that money, and another couple of questions that I've got for you. But Culturehood, 2/3 of Culturehood here today. Tell us a little bit about, introduce yourselves and what schools you guys are at now as well, and tell us about Culturehood. You guys were our grand final winners last year.
We're from Springfield Central, but after some
You changed schools.
So we're originally at Springfield Central. I was originally at Springfield Central, but I ended up changing schools, but that didn't mean that I wouldn't continue in the business that we're making.
Cool. And so tell us about Culturehood. Like, what's the business?
So Culturehood, we make hoodies with designs on them, island designs, and to hopefully expand on other cultures. We make hoodies raising awareness for domestic violence around Australia.
Awesome. What I think is really funny, right, because you got the mic and you got real nervous, yeah? And so I think sometimes young people in the program assume that the people that get through to our grand finals are these like incredible speakers that love being up on stage and talking in front of other people. Do you guys love speaking in front of other people?
No.
Hard no?
No.
Has it gotten easier?
No, it hasn't.
No.
It hasn't.
And that's okay too. What I would love to know is, like, before you pitched at the grand final, because that was obviously like 300 people in the room, and these guys may have seen your pitch video because it's on our website. So, I mean, you guys are basically famous. When you were like on that day before like your school pitch night and even before the grand final, what kind of feelings did you guys have about pitching? Like, were you super confident that you were going to smash it? Like, what were your feelings as a team before you went into those events?
We didn't want to do it. We didn't want to come to school because we're too scared to do it. We thought that our idea was bad because we didn't get picked to do it at first. We were like the second chance because the other team didn't come that day. And then we came second for our school Shark Tank.
Let me just like refresh. So you guys weren't picked as a finalist team for your school Shark Tank, and you got kind of a Hail Mary wildcard entry because another team pulled out.
Yeah.
And then you won your school Shark Tank? Second?
We came second, yeah.
Yep, you came second?
Yeah.
And then got through to the grand final. And so were you surprised when you made it through to the grand final?
Yeah. We thought we weren't going to... We just did it because our teacher told us to do it.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's... Tanika, is it kind of the same for you? Like, you just kind of kept going through the rounds because you thought you had to?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I want to know about, like, your school Shark Tank and your grand final as well. How did you feel going into your school Shark Tank? Because I came along to that Shark Tank. What did that look like for you?
Didn't want to go off and do it. Thought my idea was really bad, and I didn't have any faith in myself, and knew that the ideas and the business's ideas that I was up against were a lot better than mine.
Interesting. And then how did you go in your Shark Tank?
I ended up winning.
Yeah. And you pitched solo because you had a business partner at the time who decided to step away from the project. So was it like the day of that you found out you were pitching by yourself for that school Shark Tank too?
Yeah.
How did that feel?
That was very hard and I was ready to give up.
Yeah.
But luckily I didn't.
Yeah, cool. So you won your school Shark Tank, and then obviously you made it through then to the grand final, and you were pitching in front of like 300 people at the Triffid with 7 other teams that year. Tell me about the lead up to that event and how you were feeling going into that grand final.
I came up to you and told me I told you I didn't want to do it.
Yeah, you did. You totally did. I genuinely thought maybe you weren't going to get up on stage, so that definitely happened. What I want to focus in on, like, because you pitched amazingly, and again, you're probably famous. Like, these guys will have probably seen your pitch too. When you got off stage, how did you feel? You didn't know, like, even before you found out you won, but just that moment of finishing the pitch and getting through the questions from the judges. How did you feel then?
I felt pumped, like just wanted to stay up there and keep going. It was, really cool.
So I think I often say to young people in the program that when you get up there on stage and you deliver the pitch, it's different to how you think it'll be. And when you come off stage, you have this like a kind of euphoric like excitement about getting through it. That was definitely the case for you. Was it the same for you guys? Like, did you kind of finish the pitch and feel a bit pumped that you got through it? Relieved?
Yeah, we felt really relieved, because before we were like tempted to back out at the last minute, but yeah, we felt really relieved.
Did you think you could do it? So if
No.
I'd said to you like a month before the grand final, both of you, if I'd said in a month you're going to be jumping up on stage and pitching to 300 people, did you think you could do it?
No. There was actually a point in time where we said no to our teacher, that we don't want to do it anymore. And then like he just said stuff that made us.
He told us that we had to.
Yeah, pass the mic. Yeah, let us know. Yeah, so like you confided in your teacher that you didn't think you could get through, and so what did that conversation look like?
He like told us that this was like a one-off chance that we had for our business if we wanted to keep going forward, because our idea was good, because we thought it was so bad we didn't want to do it.
Yeah, interesting. And like Tanika, I feel like it was the same experience for you. When you look back on the last 2 years, going from pitching at your school Shark Tank to pitching at the grand final and winning, launching a crowdfunding campaign and single-handedly raising over $10,000, finding a local manufacturer, manufacturing the socks that are in your hand, they're now being stocked in your school uniform shop, and you're taking orders for other school uniform shops. So heads up, teachers and principals out there, like if you want to stock shielded socks in your uniform shop, this is the young entrepreneur to chat to. Did you think you could do any of it?
No, I had no faith in myself.
Do you still, like, is it quite surprising to look back and think of all that
Yeah,
stuff?
definitely. I'm so glad that I did it, because my confidence and everything went up in the last 2 years from it. So it's very exciting.
I know you said the highlight was the crowdfunding campaign for you. And for those that are unfamiliar with crowdfunding, it's like a way where you can put your products up on a website and kind of like pre-sell them so that you can secure the money to then purchase the product, so that you're not out of pocket before you actually manufacture a product. If you get some time, like, highly recommend you jump on like Kickstarter, or Tanika used Start Some Good, which is a social enterprise, the crowdfunding campaign as well. Have a look at those websites and just kind of like sift through the different products that are there, because there's some crazy innovative and cool products that you can purchase. And because they're Kickstarter campaigns or crowdfunding campaigns, you can often, because you're buying them before they exist, you often get them like a little bit cheaper than what you will when they go to market. But there's a lot of work that goes into a crowdfunding campaign. Like, you don't just put up the website and get the cash, right? What was that process of crowdfunding for you? Like, how did you bring on the support that you needed to raise like over $10,000?
It was a lot of hustling, and it was just a very stressful month of trying to get over that line. A lot of pleading with people to put money in, messaging and calling my family and stuff, and just trying to get the word around my community and hope, and like a little bit further as well, which was very hard to do, but so glad I did it.
I think a lot of the time I feel like we get worried that if we ask somebody for something and they say no, like we get scared of asking. What would you say to that, like as far as asking for help or asking for money, or you've had to ask for a lot of stuff over the last 2 years? Does it get easier, or what tips do you have for people in reaching out to have those conversations?
Definitely a tip that I always use now after talking to you about it is what's the worst that can happen, which is usually a no. So yeah, you just ask, like don't be afraid to ask people, because usually, especially at our age, it's very easy to convince someone, I guess you could say, because we're at our age, so it's a lot cooler for someone our age to be doing something like this. So
Yeah, I know, right? Like if I was pitching socks, nobody would give money to me, but here's Tanika and she asks for money and people wanted to give her money. I'm not bitter about it at all. So yeah, ask, what's the most surprising yes you've ever gotten?
The $3,000 that was put into the crowdfunding campaign by a lovely man in my community, which was absolutely amazing. Yeah, definitely that.
Amazing. And for you guys, so I know that like it's been a big 12 months since, or not quite, maybe 6 months since you guys finished up the program. Like where's Culturehood at now? Like what have you been working on over the last 6 months?
So over the last 6 months, we've been working on a website, and we're actually nearly finished our website, so it should be up and running soon. And we're also working on getting our first batch of hoodies out. So yeah, the hoodies will come soon.
Cool. I'm pretty excited about the hoodies because I've seen the design. What colours are you guys printing first?
So we're printing 3 colours first. So we have black, grey, and like a petrol blue.
Which is the one I'm most excited about, not kidding. Yeah, awesome. And what's maybe been the hardest stuff to do post-program for you guys? Maybe a challenge since you finished or since you won the grand final through till now?
For me, the hardest thing is communicating, because since I've moved schools, it's been really hard to like carry on with the business.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think communicating in general can be like really complex and difficult. I'd love to, before we duck into an activity real quick, what's like one piece of advice that, you know, maybe we'll pass the mic so each person can offer one, but if there's like one piece of advice that you would give to young people that are in the program right now. So they might be like 4 weeks in, maybe they don't even have an idea yet. If you could go back to your younger selves at 4 weeks in the program, like what might be a key piece of advice that you would give young people who are doing this now?
That there's no such thing as a bad idea, because we changed our idea like twice, and we thought they were both bad, but we ended up winning the grand final. So you don't have a bad idea if you think it's bad.
Yeah, cool. That's great. And I think that often like we talk to teams or solo founders and they say to us like we're not going to apply for the grand final because we don't think our idea is good enough. And I love, like, part of what I love about your story is that you guys all thought your ideas weren't good enough, and not only did you get through to the grand final, but you also won. So, you know, we're often our harshest critic when it comes to this stuff, and we might think it's a bad idea, but actually it's not. Tanika, what's maybe one piece of advice that you've got?
Just don't give up. Like, it's just simple as that. No matter how much you think your idea is bad or that you're not going to be good pitching, just do not give up.
And I think on that pitching front, do you think you have to be a good public speaker to win or to get through?
Not at all. You got to fake it till you make it.
Yes, so true. Because do you think the judges, like at the grand final, care about how confidently you pitch? Like, what do you reckon they're looking for when it comes to that stuff?
I think hustle is probably one of the most important things they're looking for. What you've done to get to the point where you're at the grand final and what you're wanting to do or willing to do afterwards. And yeah, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I know when Tanika pitched, she had pitched to her Chamber of Commerce and they'd already given you funding off the back of that pitch. And I know Culturehood, when you guys pitched, in your interview questions, you talked about how you'd created it like you already had a list of almost pre-sales for your hoodies. Like you'd spoken to dozens of people who'd said that if you made them, they would buy them. And so the judges were really compelled by that hustle that you've already done to take what was an idea but translate that into a business. Benina, what's one piece of advice that maybe you would have for students who are tapping into the program right now?
Don't be afraid, because I was afraid of getting up on stage because I don't like speaking in front of a lot of people. But don't be afraid, because it's not bad once you get up there, and like you're in the moment sort of thing. Just don't be afraid. You can do it.
That's awesome. We're going to come back to these guys in a couple of minutes because we've got some questions that students have submitted. You guys have submitted that you want to ask these guys, but I want to tap in real quick and just do a really quick activity off the back of what we've been working on and tapping into that notion of like what's compelling. And so we've got our list of 4 things. We've talked through materials. We've talked through like the accessibility. I want us to tap into the features. So this is like what about our product or our service is unique or different or interesting that separates us from other people that are making that product. If we use the examples of the incredible young entrepreneurs that are sitting next to me right now, we've got Tanika's shielded socks. Now, you can walk into any shop in the world and buy a pair of socks. You can jump online and you can buy socks. Socks are not hard to come by. There are lots of people that produce socks locally and internationally. The other thing is putting crazy patterns or cool, bright colors on socks also isn't that new. There are still lots of companies that do that. You can buy crazy socks, you can get them as a subscription, that's a thing. The unique feature that separates Tanika's shielded socks from other socks is the fact that the top of the sock is white, which means that if your school asks you to wear white socks, which I can see from everyone that's sitting on this panel today, they need to wear white socks, it means that you can have these cool, funky socks underneath your shoe, but still meet your uniform policy. And a portion of the profits go to Support Kids Helpline, which means that every pair of socks you wear is getting support to people who need it most. So the feature of having that white band separates it from other types of socks that you might be able to purchase. If we talk about the culture hood guys, there's a couple of features that make their hoodies different. Again, apparel or clothing, there's lots of different places that you can get apparel. If I want to buy a black hoodie, there's 1,000 different places that I can go to get that black hoodie. What makes the culture hood hoodie different is that this is a design that these guys have created themselves with Benina's uncle, who's actually helped create this design. So you cannot buy the design that is on this hoodie anywhere else. In addition, a portion of the profits go to supporting charities that mean the most to these guys to end domestic violence, a problem that's really close to their hearts and something that they want to affect change in. So the design itself is entirely different, and it's been designed in collaboration with young people. This is a hoodie designed by young people for young people. So that feature creates a point of difference compared to other hoodies that you can purchase elsewhere. So I'm going to throw to you for 3 minutes now. What might be a unique or interesting feature that you can ideate for your product or service that makes it different to any other product or service that exists? Remember, there's almost no such thing as an original idea. Whatever you've thought of, somebody's probably done before, but is there a way that you can tweak it to make it that little bit different? We're going to give you 3 minutes to try and come up with as many different features that you can add to your product or service to make it different. And then we're going to come back with a couple of questions for these guys from you guys. Guys, hopefully you came up with some really weird and wonderful features that you could be able to add to your product or service to make it different to anybody else that's doing something similar. Now, I want to come back to our second ideation cultural condition, and that was around like go wild. So the first one was like go big, like with lots of ideas. The second one was go wild. And so when we're thinking about different features that we could add to our product or service, we don't want to be limited by maybe what people have done before. We want to write down all of the weird, wonderful, wacky, bizarre, expensive, things that you may not have ever seen before ideas, because remember, there could be like a glimmer of gold that comes out of that crazy idea that you can bring into your product or service. The other thing, make sure that you're going together. So our third cultural condition of ideation play, and writing the ideas down, standing up, because we get a different energy when we ideate standing up. Make sure that we're like listening to the ideas of other people and kind of like using those as sparks to prompt other thinking. I want to go back to something that I said at the end of our last session. If you sat down to try and think about cool features for your product or service and you were like hitting a total blank, like there were crickets, tumbleweed floating past while you were trying to come up with ideas, I want you to think maybe this is not the right idea for you. If you don't have that creative energy or creative spark around designing, around the idea that you've got right now, go back to the step before. So go back and pick a different product or service to innovate around, or even further, go back to the problem and pick another problem. Because if you're not feeling that, again, that spark of creativity, Leon talked about it earlier, you know, when he grabs his pen out and he draws and he's really excited to be engaged and involved in designing, if you don't have that spark of creative joy in what you're trying to put together, then maybe it's just not the right product or the right problem for you to focus on. And so pivoting now and going back now, it will be a really powerful way for you to leapfrog further and find the right idea that really energizes you and gets you excited. We're going to throw back to these guys and ask them a couple of questions to finish off that have come from you guys. One thing that we talked about in our last session was around the fact that the tighter that your problem links to your product, and the more, you know, the connection or the passion that you have for that problem, the better the business idea is. Do you think that's the case for you guys with Culturehood? Like, you know, what is it about the hoodies and the connection to the problem that's really powerful and important to you?
So with our hoodies, we have like a special connection to why we chose cultural patterns on them. We believe that in our Polynesian community that there's a lot of domestic violence going on and people may be too scared to stand up and speak. So we want to be the voices for our Polynesian community. So that's like the main reason why we chose cultural patterns.
But like, even though it has an increase in our Polynesian community, we just want to let everyone know that no matter how different you are, anyone can go through it. Like, domestic violence doesn't have a race. Like, no matter how different you are, you can experience this.
And there's a certain element of pride in bringing your culture to your designs, right? Like, it's bringing like that sense of culture that you guys are really proud of back to the hoodie as well. Like, was that a part, like, tell me about when you were working with like to design the actual hoodie. Like, were there really deliberate decisions you made that linked the design to like your cultural heritage and history? Benina? When your uncle maybe was designing it, like, did he make really like, and obviously working with you, like, were there lots of like really specific things that had to be included there?
Yeah, so the pattern that we have on our first batch of hoodies, it symbolizes different like things in our culture. Like, symbolizes, some patterns symbolize animals, some patterns symbolize tools and that. And yeah, it's like a thing to.
So there's an element of storytelling that sits underneath that as well. Tanika, I want to throw to you real quick. Like, I know that over the last like 2 years, going from an idea that you pitched to a product in hand, have you done it all by yourself?
Definitely not.
Smashed it? Solo?
No, definitely not.
What does that look like?
I don't know how to explain it, but I just kind of definitely can't do everything on your own. I've reached out to the graphic designer who designed the socks. He's a Sydney-based street artist.
Mulga, who you probably see on like 7-Eleven stores and stuff. Like, yeah cool.
And my fashion designer, who actually helped me design the socks so that they were in the requirements for manufacturing. And just a lot of other people along the way that have helped me or given me feedback or anything like that.
Yeah, and look, because we've worked together for the last 2 years, I know that asking for help doesn't come easy to you. Is that something that that has gotten better, or do you think that maybe you're just better at just asking and not worrying so much about what happens afterwards?
Yeah, definitely better at just asking and then not focusing on them thinking that I'm stupid or whatever because I don't know. Being a kid as well, it's like I'm not supposed to know everything, so yeah. Yeah,
use that to your advantage. Have you ever been told no when you've asked somebody for something?
I don't think so.
What about you guys? Have you ever been told no by somebody who you've needed help from?
Have we?
Or like most of the people that you've asked all said, yeah, we'd love to help.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Cool. So I guess like part of the lesson is if you don't ask, you don't know, right?
So
yeah.
just ask questions. You have to ask questions.
Yeah, cool. So I want to, there's one question that comes up for both of you actually, and it, like Nia and Angie from Park Ridge have asked it. How do you advertise your business? And so maybe Tanika, you can kick off and talk about like how you've advertised your business or what like customer channels you've tapped into, like to access people and tell them about your cool product.
I think a big one was word of mouth, just talking to people about it, and if they're hearing it from you and not like in person, it's a lot more effective. Definitely through the school. Like my school has done a lot of posts and stuff about it to get it around the community. And just showing up at different events, like at things, just to show my face and be like, I'm here, this is like what I'm doing, is definitely another way. But also just continuously posting and being like the face of people's social media is also a massive thing.
Yeah, cool. And I think sometimes young people forget that their school communities can be massive drivers. So just tapping into your school community, there's newsletters, there's got their social media. If your school has like 1,000 or 1,500 people in it, or even 500 people, that's 500 potential customers for your product without walking outside of the school gate. So if you tap into that market, that can be like a huge community, because then all of those students also have families. And so suddenly you've got a massive network without even walking outside the school gates. What about you guys? What kind of like marketing, or like how do you reach your customers or share your story?
I'd say friends and family. Like, since we come from Polynesian community, like everyone knows everyone. Everyone, like if you talk about something, everyone will know, like in your family. But school has been a big one for us too, how they post us on their social media pages as well, to get the word out about our business and stuff.
Cool. And look, it would be remiss of me not to mention the gram whilst we're chatting. So you guys are both on Instagram, yeah? Like, what's the Shielded Socks handle, Tanika, if people want to follow you?
Do I spell it out?
Well, yeah, I guess. Like, is it shielded?
It's just shielded.socks.
Perfect. Okay, so at shielded.socks, and then Culture Hood, where can they find you guys?
Ours is culturehood_.
Cool.
Yeah.
So one thing that you could do to support other young entrepreneurs like you guys is to jump on and give them a follow, and then give their posts a like, and share their content with your friends, because that's a really easy way for you to support other young entrepreneurs. I want to say a huge thank you to both our 2018 and 2019 Grand Final winners for sharing their experiences and their advice, and some hot tips for you from people that have been exactly where you guys have been before. So thanks so much, guys. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll be back to you with our last session, which I'm super psyched to bring to you in about 10 minutes' time. See you then.